All right, and it's the East County Prep Football Review. Adam, not the Friday football review this week. We had the Saturday championship game, and what a game it was. And we did have a game on Friday, of course, and we were hanging out together at Community Stadium after all that. The weather cooperated, and we got to play the game at home at Santana. We're going to talk about that game, and we're going to talk about some weather issues for this week's game on Friday at Southwestern College. But first, let's get right to the matter at hand and talk about those great games. I think we'll just kind of go in chronological order because Friday night is where you and I were hanging out on the sidelines, and well, you were up in the box trying to make technology work for us. And Adam, you had to be proud for all the worries that the Sultans fans had, and going up against Cale Patterson. And hey, he scared us in the beginning. He's a very good player, but you know what? This Santana defense was real. It's real that we have this defense, and it's going to take us to the championship game. Shut them down after that big 60-yard run to start the game, and they get that touchdown. And after that was all Sultans, my friend.
Yeah, no, he had 126 yards in the game, and with 100 of those yards coming in the first half. Of course, the big 60-yard touchdown coming on the in that first drive, and after that, Coach Kelly, excuse me, pulled the defense aside and went to the little replay system deal, television deal they got on the sidelines, and say, hey, look, these are the adjustments we need to make. And he kind of did one of these here, zip, 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 and plugged all the players in the right place. And, they came to play. And it's the first, honesty, Moni, it's the first time in a month that the defense actually showed who they really are. A unit that is on a mission coming to play.
Yeah, Adam, and as a result, the Sultans are going to try again for that first ever San Diego Section CIF football championship when they meet second-seeded Sarah in the Section 4 final at Southwestern College this Friday at 1 p.m. Adam, it was a stunning performance, really, by the defense. How about Michael Richter? 3 more sacks. That's 17 and a half. I think that's record-setting territory as far as Santana defenses are concerned, and he was wreaking havoc back there. The Patriots really had no time, and they also got to Cale Patterson, the record-setting running back. Adam, I had major concerns. The Sultans, when they've gone up against running backs such as Patterson, have kind of had trouble. They've won some games. They've lost some games like that. They've won high-scoring games, and after that first touchdown, I was really concerned, thinking that, what are we headed for here? Are we looking at 42, 35? Are we going to need to air it out and wing it with this offense just to keep pace with Orange Glen? But the defense put that to rest.
Yeah, coming into the game, I was concerned about it. I honestly thought the game was reminiscent of the 2016 semifinal game when the Sultans went on the road and defeated a Monte Vista team 35-32 in the last minute and a half. And that in that game, Jamal McClendon had some big time yardage and a couple scores, and they withstood a last drive of Monte Vista, and like I said, went on to win that game 35-32. So honestly, that's what I thought the game was going to be like on Friday night. With Patterson was going to get his yardage, and that they were going to have to make Orange Glen win another way. But the defense came up big after that long first drive by the Patriots, which, by the way, I'm not even sure he scored on. I believe that was the one, the drive where he, because having watched the replay of your video and then also on the PPR and also from what we saw up in we saw up in the booth, I don't think he scored. But they called it a touchdown, and there's no instant replay in high school, so he was credited with a touchdown. But luckily, the defense, like I said, Coach Kelly made the adjustments, and put his squad, his defensive players in the right position to succeed there on Friday night.
Yeah, Adam, if anything, I mean, the fact that only the smallest sliver of the ball has to pass over the smallest blade of grass to be a touchdown. I guess Patterson did get that score. I guess if I looked at it again and again and again and again like I did, which I didn't need to, thanks to the offense from Santana. Didn't need to worry about that touchdown. How about Nathan Temple? We were hanging out with him and his dad after the game and sharing a moment, just congratulating him. That was awesome. Temple, 227 yards and the 4 touchdowns. Adam, they tried the deep route down the sideline to Randy Smith twice on that first drive, both times overthrown. I think Randy kind of wanted to dive for that first one, but you don't want to. You want to go all out and you want to make a full effort. You don't want to hurt yourself. It would have been a very, very difficult catch, but I know he would have liked to have had a shot. I guess it was desperation. I think Randall might have tried to make that catch. It was overthrown, and they didn't connect on those first 2. But the third one was a thing of beauty, and it was exactly what they were trying to do. I don't know what Orange Glen was thinking. You knew that play was probably going to come again. The Sultans are always going to try to get one of those every game. Temple to Smith down the right sideline. It's one of their best plays. And 60 yards to take the lead back or tie the game anyway right at the first quarter there. Get those points right back. And then, of course, the run by Jared Forster. It was a pass, but, just a short pass from Temple, who actually did a pretty good job. Patriots did a pretty good job of getting a little bit of pressure on him, but he was very, very elusive and threw well on the run. And he threw that short pass to Forster, and boy, was Forster impressive, shaking off about 3 ankle tackles. They really couldn't grab him, and he got into the end zone. And hey, big news, Dean Landers with 2 touchdowns in the game. He might have been kind of the unheralded star or hero in this one because he caught that first one, a beautifully placed ball by Temple on the left side of the end zone. Pretty good coverage by the Patriots on that play, but Temple put it right where he needed to, and Landers made the catch inbound perfectly. You see that photographer there on the Prep Pigskin Report highlights. He was in perfect position, Adam. The photographer was right there in a crouching position. I know the Sultans played great, but I was just watching that photographer on the PPR, but you know what? He didn't get a good shot. He's a terrible photographer, and I apologize. I would have had a great picture of Dean scoring a touchdown. Instead, it was all dark and blurry.
No, what? Not just the passing game for the Sultans, but yeah, I know who the photographer was, of course. Also the run game. Brooks Mutah, 141 yards on 15 carries and a touchdown. The offensive line. Luckily, Andrew Gombieski, who wasn't sure if he was going to play, came back and was able to play after being injured in that game previously against Escondido. So that was a huge return for the Sultans. And, that with him in the lineup on that line, that really gave the Sultans another boost on the offensive side of the ball. Like you said, Temple, he threw, 4 touchdowns. Santana on the night tallied 374 yards of total offense. Defensively, they held, Patterson to 126 yards, which was over 100 yards, below his average coming into the game. Defensively, like you said, Michael Richter, 3 sacks on the night, 17.5 on the season, which, by the way, is a sack behind former Santana Sultan Jason Patterson, who previously set the record back in 2011 with 18.5 in a single season. And that year, as you know, Santana made their first ever title championship game appearance with a big semifinal win over Coronado that year to get to the championship at Qualcomm in a game that they unfortunately sadly lost in the last minute to a really good Valley Center squad coached by Rob Gilster. In a game that actually Sultans could have won they had not been robbed on the onside kick attempt at the end of the game. But anyways, Michael Richter, if he gets a couple, sack or two, he's going to either tie or break Patterson's regular season school record for most sacks in a season. Defense, they set the tone for that game Friday night, and hopefully they can keep it going. This was the matchup that you and I had talked about in the preseason, as you want to call it. When I first saw the divisions when they came out in June, July, whenever that was, I saw it. I was like, you know what? It's going to be Santana versus Sarah. That was just my opinion, because Santana, last year lost 45-20 or whatever it was to San Diego in the one semifinals, and in a game that they actually possibly could have beaten San Diego. They were in that game last year out at historic Balboa Stadium. Excuse me. They were within 8 points at one point and were driving, and unfortunately, interception occurred, and San Diego went on to win. And on the other side, Sarah, they lost to a really good Kearney squad last year. So this year, both teams really hungry to get back to where they are. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens in this one, because, like I said, this was the matchup that myself, and I know you, and a lot of people figured was gonna be it at the end of the year.
Yeah, we talked about all these different teams and their offenses. That any of them would make for interesting matchups against Santana. But right now, the Sultans, in Division 4, they're playing really good defense. And I think that, Sarah, you look at that first game that they played, Adam, and, the Sultans took care of business, and that one was on the road. So I think that bodes well. You mentioned Mutop and his 141 yards, that's 15 carries. That's a great game. He's been doing most of the groundwork for the Sultans. We know, Dawood Sadler, he had his ankle heavily taped with ice after the game. He had to come out of the game with a turned ankle. Hope Dawood is healthy and ready for that one. I imagine he was, going to give it a go, and hopefully the turned ankle, hopefully he'll get better, because they could use a player like him, especially on defense, where he was just equally as good as he's been as Mutaw's sub. But Mutaw, maybe I'll go back and check. I mean, he's a senior. He's over 2,000 yards for sure in his career, and certainly approaching 30 touchdowns. I mean, what an unheralded career he's had, and I think it'd be apropos if he could get a championship with these guys as well. The Sultans, that offensive line, the self-proclaimed Big Belly Crew, I see him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Adam with Luke Simonek and Gumby and Jason, Adrian King, and Jordan Ortiz. The offense averaging 38 points a game. And this isn't the Sultans that kind of we're thinking of when we were talking about those wild games and the passing, which has been great. But Mutaw brings a real running game, a real running threat. And he scored a 35-yard touchdown at the end of the game. So, he might even have more touchdowns than.
Well,
I guess he's got 28 rushing, 34 for his career, I think is what we're looking at.
Yeah, he's about right now on the regular season. He's about 150 yards from hitting the 1,000-yard plateau. He'd be only the third back in Santana history to do so, behind Jared Schnautz and the all-time leading rusher Bobby Wallace, who was on that 2016 team, the last time the Sultans made the championship game. Unfortunately, they lost to a pretty good La Jolla Country Day squad led by now Virginia Tech Braxton Burmeister. But that was a game that they could have won. They were up by a touchdown, and they were going to score just before half, and they would have gotten, and they were just going to get the ball back to start the second half. They were going down to score just before halftime, and unfortunately, Josh Odewalt threw a pick, and kind of the momentum changed. And after that, the final score ended up being 38-24, La Jolla Country Day. But in all reality, that was a game the Sultans should have and could have and should have won.
Adam, Santana won that game against Sarah. It was in week 2, I believe, yes. 34-10.
30, 31-14.
31-14, okay,
Yes.
on the road. And in that game, Temple had a pretty good game, 210 yards, 143 yards and 2 touchdowns to Randy Smith, and Mutah rushed 89 yards and had a touchdown in that one. Ironically, it was against Sarah. If you remember, when he broke his collarbone in week 2, we were talking about that a little bit after the game. You were reminding me in that week 2 win back in week 18, and knocked him out of the lineup for like 6 or 7 weeks. And the Sultans, ended up finishing the regular season 5-5, but advanced to the section finals. Temple came in, got hot, show what he's made of. Maybe a little bit rusty from missing all those weeks. Maybe a Temple that would have been there all season long might have had a little bit better timing. Maybe they would have won that big game. Of course, we talk about the 38-24 loss to La Jolla Country Day in the 2016 title game. That was also in Division 4. What I'm getting at is, if you look at some of these factors, and look, we got to win this game against Sarah and win this CIF championship. I mean, this school's been around, right, for how many years now? Since
1965.
1965, and you graduated in 67.
No. Okay. Don't. I'm not older than you are, Moni.
Still, got to get this first championship. So let's win this one. But it's kind of funny, they lost last year to a Cavers team that won the state title.
Yes.
They just beat an Orange Glen team that won a state title.
Yes.
I'm not going to mention anything, but you can see what I'm getting at here.
Well, don't count Sarah out. I mean, in that game, in the second week of the season, Timmy Zabrowski got knocked out in that third quarter. That was a big difference right there. And also, like you said, that was only the second week of the season. And later on, after since Sarah beat San Diego a few weeks ago in league play to snap the Cavers' 18-game winning streak, Sarah's been on a roll both on the defensive and offensive and on offense. Their semifinal game against La Jolla Country Day, they won 76-36, and that's the most amount of points the Conquistadors have ever scored in a game in their school history, and they've been around for over 40 years as well.
Sounds like some Division 4 football right there.
What's that?
Sounds like some Division 4 football right there.
Yeah,
the last couple of years, some of these games.
Yeah, in that game, Zabrowski, he only threw 9 times, completing 7 of them for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns.
In the first game against Santana?
No, in the semifinal against La Jolla Country Day.
In the game, they scored 76 points. What were his stats? For that?
Yeah, 7 of 9 for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns.
They ran all over them.
Yeah, as a unit, they ran for 474 yards, led by Dustin Ellison, who ran for 175 yards on 16 carries and 4 touchdowns, and Brevin Lingau, who ran for 124 yards on 10 carries and 2 touchdowns. By the way, Sarah led that game at halftime by a score of 52-14, and 70-28 after 3 quarters of play.
You look at Country Day, some of their scores this year, they really, as much success as they had, I mean, it's almost like a historically bad defense. So I'm not going to – Sarah's going to have to take a little bit different approach. They're not going to be able to run against Santana, I'm afraid.
Well, tell you what, it ain't going to make much of a difference. What evens out everything here, Moni, is the weather. And on Wednesday, starting Wednesday, folks, we're supposed to be getting one of the worst storms we've had in quite some time here in San Diego County. It's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, all day up until nighttime.
Okay.
I mean, it rained last year, but it didn't rain until the second half, and all those games got canceled. The last time it really rained here in San Diego during a football game, well, I mean, I know it did rain in that CIF championship game where Monte Vista lost 7-0. If you recall that, game, I think it was to Escondido. I think it was, or maybe it was Sweetwater. I can't remember. But Bill and I were at that game, and the other team won on the only pass of the entire game. 7-0 because it rained, but it wasn't a deluge like what's being predicted for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The last time it really rained like it's being predicted, Moni, was back in 2011, the last night of the regular season. Santana played out at Monte Vista, and that's when I was actually working for Coach Gross and the Sultans, doing all their media and stats and behind the scenes stuff. And man, they ended up winning that game, running clock in the second half, and they ran, but it was a slosh bowl and it was bad. And I sat in the stands and oh my gosh, I mean, I was soaked head to toe.
Was that on a dirt grass field, a mud field, or a turf?
That was turf.
Okay, we had turf back then,
and it was all, I believe so, if I remember correctly. But it was all over the county though, so it wasn't like Santana and Monte Vista were the only teams affected. So these passing teams, you're going to have to try and figure something out.
Well, here it is. I don't think either of these two teams, because we know Sarah can pass. I mean,
yes,
I'll give them credit as well, because as much as we're so excited about this for the Sultans, this is really a brew point for Sarah to get to this point with Zabrowski. I mean, he's had a great career. Really, one of the best careers for a lower division passer that anybody's ever had. I mean, this guy's been cranking out yards for years. So the thing that the weather brings in, it's not like one of those teams will have an advantage over the other, unless you think there is. I don't think there is. But what it brings into play is variance, randomness, turnovers that are out of your control sometimes.
Yes.
And so, especially the backs. So Brooks, and DeWood, if he's in there, or whoever's, we got to wrap up. We got to keep that ball. You don't necessarily try to. I'm not the coach, okay, but fighting for extra yards, sometimes you're bored. You just keep this ball. You keep that ball, because the most important thing you can do is keep that ball. And there's nothing else to it but keeping that ball. You got to get yards. You got to get in the end zone, but you can't give the ball to the other team at the 20-yard line on a wet field. Doesn't matter. You get them a short field, eventually a team is going to capitalize. So anyway, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. And this one's Friday at 1 p.m. Just caution everybody out there. It's a holiday week, so hopefully everybody, all the parents will be able to take off work. It's going to be Black Friday, and so I'm sure not everybody has it off, but crowd won't be terrible. I remember the last time we were out there, Friday at 1 o'clock for that La Jolla Country Day game a couple years ago.
No, it was it was an exciting game, back in 2016, and it was a pretty packed house. Get there early. Coach Drew Smith, he's done an awesome job since taking over the program at Sarah. He's really turned things around, got it going to where he wants it to go, and both teams are looking for their first championship in their respective schools' history. So it's going to be history making time out there on Friday afternoon out at DeVore Stadium out at Southwestern College. Like I said, get there early. Tickets are $15, $10 I think for students or something like that. Parking's $10. NFHS, you can catch the game online. But no, like I said, if you can't make it out there, follow both of us on social media. I just think it's going to be a pretty good crowd, and I think it's going to, like I said, I think this weather is going to have a big factor in this game.
Well, I might. Southwestern's press box kind of weird. They got those big pillars in there. I don't want to go sit up there. I want to be maybe down there and capture some video if I get to go to the game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Check with the boss over here at East County Sports, but I don't want to necessarily sit in there in a deluge. If it's what you say, 2 or 3 inches, that sounds really like a lot of rain. So, all right.
Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, like I said, that's what's being predicted, and hopefully, I just want to see a good game. for both teams because both squads, like I said, are really good, and it's what was projected at the in the preseason by both of us. It's the anticipated matchup,
Yeah.
and you just hope that it can be played to the best of both teams' abilities.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to pump up Sarah. I like their club. I've liked watching
Mm-hmm.
them with Zabrowski over these few years, and I don't know, kind of a couple teams I kind of follow because I always thought that East County sports, would get bigger one day after 20 years. I guess it's not, but I always thought, hey, we could go cover Sarah, Patrick Henry, Ramona, just all the teams that are kind of close to the East County, like faux East County. But anyway, we're pulling for Santana. Let's make no mistake in this one. Like I said, we had a great time with Mr. Temple and Nathan after the game. Cameron Larikia, I was talking to him after the game, and Luke Simonek had a great time with them.
Yeah.
And just a great game, great performance.
Well,
and I hope they're not high on the hog after that one.
I don't think they are because speaking of Cameron Larikia, his older brother Josh was on those La Jolla Country Day championship squads. So I bet you he's talking to his older brother, getting some pep talk, maybe not, I don't know, just some pointers on what to expect. you know, you know, he really wants to win a ring and to end his career with a CIF championship ring and hopefully a state title ring if they get to that point. By the way, Cal High Sports actually predicts Santana to win the game.
Okay.
Because in the video that I saw that Mark Tennis of Cal High Sports posted, in the projection, the Sultans are projected to go on the road, I guess, and play a team called Washington Union up from the central section. So we'll see. And after I found out that their official name, because they were calling Washington Easton, I tried looking that up. I'm like, I couldn't find anything. So I emailed Mark Tennis, and he told me their actual name, Washington Union. And looking on Max Preps, obviously have never seen film or anything on them, but looking at the stats, because there is stats, they're pretty comparable to what the Sultans the Sultan stats on the year for overall. Not saying that they're that like I said, I don't know, having not seen them play, so I can't say if they're better or worse than the Sultans. I don't know.
Well, that's one step at a time.
Oh yeah.
Adam, 54 years. No school should go that long without experiencing a football championship. I always make a joke about being a native San Diegan, and I've never celebrated a world championship in any sport significant. Indoor soccer, I don't think we can count that. So, I'm going to put on my Sultan pullover again and kind of share the moment with these guys a little bit. If hopefully they get it done, I think they can. They're expected to, and that's a lot of pressure, really. And I think that these guys can handle the pressure. And I think that's a credit to their coach and their coaching staff. And make no mistake, they're pretty livid probably after that league title kind of never gotten their grasp. And you talked about it being a letdown, and I don't know. This is still a great point to get to this game. But, man, just the buildup, something that this program could really build a pillar to their success that they've had. They've had good success in football at Santana, but this is the moment for Coach Estes and his staff and these players.
Well, it's the third time that they've made the championship game without winning the league. So if they lose, okay, yeah, they made the championship game. It sucks because they didn't get anything. They didn't win league, and they didn't win a CIF championship. It's just another runner-up. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's great to make the game, but you kind of wanted to make the championship game having won your league. It's just one of those things, that I don't know. Like I said, I think it'll be very disappointing, in my opinion, to not, that if they do lose, that that they didn't come away with anything
Yeah.
other than the CIF champion, other than a CIF Division 4 runner up, which they already have two of them in the trophy case.
Well, I just hope there's no weather. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say when I was on the other SD or the Prep Insider thing earlier, um, looking at the game objectively from a sports blogger standpoint of view, I honestly I picked Sarah to win this game just because of the role that they've been on. I know you look at me kind of funny on that one,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they've played a tad bit tougher schedule than the Sultans, and I think Santana. They destroyed a San Diego team with two top running backs in the county. Santana, on the other hand, got destroyed by a running back at Monte Vista. Not saying, don't get me wrong. I don't not hold on. Like I said, looking at it objectively, I honestly think that Sarah has been on a bigger role than the Sultans because up until last Friday, Santana hadn't played a great game in a month.
Well, I think we'll cut it off at that point. 30 minutes of Sultan coverage is enough. I don't want to leave it at that necessarily because you know that I think objectively, if I'm looking at it objectively and I'm looking at, I think these mathematics are right. I mean, I think that the CIF and the the state, they got it right.
What's the prediction on Cal Preps? I haven't even looked.
Oh, I didn't look either. I don't want to waste our viewers' time by checking it. I guarantee it's the Sultans. I will check, but I'll talk as I'm checking because here's the thing to me. If I'm looking at it objectively, like you say, now I understand you got a recency bias there. So I appreciate that. And if you want to go with that, if you want to say, well, I got a recency bias, I think that I can agree with you that, yes, maybe there is that factor for the Sultans. But I think if you looked at it objectively, I think you have to pick the Sultans because that's where the math lies. That's where those projections lie. And that's kind of why I think the Sultans have the advantage in the Cal Prep rankings. In fact, looking at them now, it says Santana 27-21 seems appropriate. 6-point favorite. Like I said. So now the onus is on them. Okay, this is where we'll wrap it up. We've got to get on to Helix. But if throw out the rain, throw out the weather, like I said, hang on to the ball. You can't turn it over. That's going to be the most crucial thing. If you want to make big plays, the Sultans are starting, they're a team of big plays in a way.
Oh, yes.
Even when Mutah, some of his touchdowns are more, breakaway into the open type of touchdown runs. They've had their share of drives, and they can drive the football. It's going to be tougher against a team like Sarah. So you have that weather, you have that factor. That's the randomness factor. Nothing short of Santana's best game will get it done, if you know what I mean. I'm saying, Santana, just go out, play your game, play hard. Don't let anything bother you. Don't let your heads get out of whack. If things don't go your way early, just continue to fight and play your game. You're expected to win, so you will win. Avoid those turnovers and play the way the Sultans have played it this season in all of those wins, all 11 of those wins, and they can get it done. Sarah will need the extraordinary effort to beat Santana.
Well, if Santana wins, they set the school record for all-time wins in a season. If Sarah wins, they set the all-time wins for their school record. Like I said, I was going based upon recent games when I made that prediction earlier today, and looking at the numbers and stuff. Like I said, it had been a whole month prior to Friday that Santana had played a really balanced, good game on both sides of the ball against a decent running back. Honestly, I do think Santana will win this game, but I was going just based upon what I was looking at earlier. I do think Santana will win this game, and I think it will be close, like Cal Preps, because I know earlier I had said Sarah 28-24, but I think for looking at it,
are you dialing back
not,
that prediction though? Or are you just saying that? Are you dialing back that prediction?
No, I looking, like I said, looking at when I was talking about it earlier, Sarah had been on the roll since playing San Diego, and both offensively and somewhat on the defensive side. And I think that was kind of like their springboard season moment. I think the springboard season moment for Santana was in the semis. So hopefully they can, carry that momentum into the game on Friday.
All right, let's move on. We got a game to recap as well. Good luck to the Sultans. They're gonna do it. Okay.
Oh, I think so too. Yes.
Adam, a great game. Great game for your Highlander fan like me. Helix 28. Hey, Carlsbad 21. I don't know. I dialed up Bill Dickens. Okay, I don't know if you saw Fearless Forecaster. Just happened to pick the score exactly right of the championship game on Friday night. Helix winning it 28-21, but it really wasn't even that close, Adam. Really, the number one Helix Highlanders won a 10th overall section championship at DeVore Stadium on Saturday night, defeating the third-seeded Lancers. It was the third section open division title for Helix since the creation of the format. Adam, what happened, man? It was scoreless at the end. I know I thought it might be a low-scoring game, but it was scoreless at halftime.
No, both teams came to play. It was a defensive. It was an offensive struggle. That whole first half, both teams' defenses came up huge. Helix was able to put pressure on Carlsbad, and Cole Wright, the outstanding receiver for Carlsbad, didn't really do anything in that first half. And whatever happened in the to start the second half, it was about first or second play in on that second half, he had an 80-yard catch and score for the Lancers, and then deja vu all over again for Helix. In a span of about a minute, they boom, two straight pick sixes. Keontae Scott and John Carroll, they're up 14-7. Then they score again, 21-7. They scored 28 consecutive points against the vaunted Lancers. I guess, the score was 28-21, but it really wasn't that close.
Yeah, and that's what a championship team sometimes needs. Look, they were having trouble. They were having trouble, no doubt about it, in the first half. And, maybe wasn't indicative of how they thought it was going to go. So Carlsbad did a great job. And when, Wright had that 80-yard touchdown on the first play of the third quarter, I've kind of seen that movie before with Helix, but not this time, man. And when a team can go out and score, just like for the second straight game, a couple of touchdowns in just a couple of minutes and not even needing a drive to do it, that's the sign of a championship club, a club that has that extra gear, not that extra gear, that extra wherever they can get it from. And they have those guys on this team. Adam, Helix sophomore running back Christian Washington, he's filled in more than admirably for Elelion Noah. He rushed for 160 yards. That offensive line for Helix really, I'm not saying that Noah's not a great back. Helix they always come up with great backs, and Noah's a special player. But Washington, he also might be a special player. So I want to see him work and dedicate himself.
Oh, Moni, you there?
to be the best players in the county. But, you're losing some of those linemen, but still there's some juniors there too. But the Helix line was terrific, and they're going to be great in the state playoffs as well. Leandre Rail, Anthony Lombardo, Sean Martinez, Noah Valoria, and Cesar Valdez did a great job. Washington tied the game at 7 with that 36-yard touchdown run. Adam, Washington has over 1,100 yards now this season and 15 touchdowns. And, Keontae Scott, you mentioned him. At this time last year, he was probably sitting in his room in Las Vegas like, what am I going to do? I feel like I'm a good football player. Didn't even really get to show himself at Democracy Prep. If you look and research him, yes, he was the best player on the team. They had another guy who was really good. I think it was his quarterback, and they had a good tandem there, and they were all league and whatnot. But there's no way he could have achieved, even if he is transferred to a school in Las Vegas, to be with this type of program and to join one of the best teams in the state and make such an impact. Somebody's going to be very, very happy, and they're going to get him on the cheap, if you will, come college time, because this guy looks like he's for real. We spoke to him earlier this season. He's articulate, smart. He's a great football player. He could do so many things for you on a football field. But, he had that 30-yard interception return that to me just felt like the real momentum changer at that point. So now he's one of the most overlooked two-way stars in the county, and probably because he just wasn't a known commodity coming into this season. But 36 receptions for 563 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It's one of the best players in the county.
He didn't even make first team for offense for that side of the Grossmont League, which I don't know.
I haven't seen those lists yet myself. I'm real interested in seeing who were the all-league players, but I haven't seen any lists.
Yeah, I just heard that the other Robbie, Coach Owens was talking about that in an interview after the game on Saturday night, and I was like, wait, what? But no, he Keontae Scott, he's probably the best player no one had even heard of in San Diego. I know Coach Quintero's super high on him for all CIF. He's definitely a consideration for all CIF. Cole Wright, he caught 5 passes for 101 yards. He only had 21 yards after that one big play of 80 yards. Carlsbad on the night threw for 235 yards, 162 of them by the starting quarterback, and 73 yards by Jack Garrity, who came in for the final 2 drives for the Lancers. Overall, it was Helix, their speed really stifled Carlsbad, in my opinion. It's amazing. And of course, Delshawn Traylor, he can't go without speaking about him. He said Washington, Traylor, all those, John Carroll, all those guys.
Who's your defensive player of the year of the East County, Adam?
Oh, John Carroll by far.
Over Viamu Morse?
Yeah. And just my opinion. I mean, they're both great players, but what John Carroll has done is amazing. Don't get me wrong; they're both great players. And if you had to pick one, I would go with John Carroll. Well, it was an It was an awesome atmosphere. 8,200 was the estimated crowd.
Really?
Carlsbad brought. What's that?
You guys feel good about that number, 8,200?
I do. Okay. It's one of the. I mean, I would have liked to seen 10,000, but for 8,200, an estimated 8,200, both sides were electric. The Lancers student section with their lights and all the stuff that they do, and coming in, watching them do as the Lancers were getting off the bus, everybody standing there with their little lightsabers, introducing the team as they were coming off the bus. It was awesome, Moni. And then of course Helix. with what I think is the best tradition in all high school football here in San Diego, the Bagpiper Band, leading chills down the bones, man.
And Adam, I like Carlsbad's program a lot in all their sports. I love what their athletic director, Mrs. Waters, does, and Damon's doing 2 programs. What Helix is doing, Damon's really stepped it up, especially over the last couple of years. Getting kids involved, doing those movies, those videos of the games. They're just terrific. Waters, she does a great job updating us on all of their sports. So if programs want to take a little bit of a lead and start to do some of the things that they're doing, it really helps publicize your program, brings excitement to the games, and quite frankly, Adam said 8,200 people now is a huge game, 2 great schools, 2 great programs, but I guarantee you doing that legwork, just making those extra tweets, Facebook posts, whatever it is, helps a lot, and that spreads the word. It's not just you or me doing it, it's people sharing it and talking about it, and that's what gets people excited, and that's why we're still excited doing this when it looked like we were kind of not getting too excited a couple of years ago. It's brought us back to life because the thing that makes it so much fun is that it's easier to keep track of everybody and who's great and who's doing good and what teams are doing good. So that's what I take away from these 2 programs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about that. They both programs, especially Amanda Waters up there at Carlsbad, she does a phenomenal job of keeping everything updated on social media, especially on Twitter. All the sports up there, and of course Damon with Helix, he does a really good job too. And it's not just Damon, it's all the people who follow, who are part of that Helix family, do a really good job. I was on Saturday night, I was just kind of prowling up above on the concourse, and it's amazing how many alumni I saw for Helix. Everybody wearing either Letterman's jackets or some kind of Helix, whatever, t-shirt, sweatshirt, jacket, whatever, alumni, of 76 or 75, whatever. It's just so awesome to see all the people come back and support the school and the program.
And we were able to actually get them some seats this time, so they didn't get penalized.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it was just an electric atmosphere. As I see here on the message thing, love the bagpipes, of course, man. And I got to, I'm biased also because my cousins were actually in the band for Helix. So that's another reason why I love the band. But I just love high school bands in general, especially if they're really good, because they add to the atmosphere of what high school sports is all about. It was just awesome to see, at the end, the guys douse Coach Owens with the obligatory water or Gatorade or whatever. It was kind of funny at first because they were trying to find one of the jugs that actually had something in it that wasn't ice. So that took a couple minutes.
I bet on the blue Gatorade.
Yeah. So, but no, it's after the game, talking to listening to what Coach Owens had to say, with all the adversity that they had to go through, with their starting quarterback that was supposed to be the starting quarterback, out with the season-ending injury. And then, of course, Keontae just showing up on the doorstep, basically, not a couple days before the season started or whenever it was. And then Cameron Brown, especially Cameron Brown, kudos to him stepping in at quarterback. And, of course, the do-all everything Swiss Army knife, as we call him, Delshawn Traylor, playing his role. And, of course, the injury to Elion Noah, who's probably the best back in the county. In fact, I think he is still the best back in the county. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens on next Monday in that all CIF meeting. I mean, that's a big decision we have to decide on that one.
he'll be a first-team all-leaguer. But Adam, I just want to get one take. I might have to go soon, but the Highlanders are likely to be placed in Division I AA again. That's the same division that they lost to Folsom in the state title game 2 years ago. We're going to find that out on December 1st. So I think the road to a state championship is there. I think these guys have played with great job, man. You're losing such a player like that. I mean, that's adversity. That is big-time adversity because, he's a game-changing back and, was expected to lead them to this point. And they've still gotten to this point. So it's a credit to the coaching staff of the program, but mostly all the people surrounding the program that's, gotten this place.
And the fact that the point that was brought up at the end of the game in the post-game interviews with Coach Owens, if it wasn't for Leon Noah, doing what he did against Cathedral and Saints, they're not in this position. In fact, they probably don't win those games. And they're playing for a Division I championship. That's how important he is to the program. And yeah, it is the next man up, deal there at Helix, but like I said, it was brought in the post game interview that Leon, what he did against Cathedral and Saints and Oaks Christian, it really propelled them to where they are and what they accomplished on Saturday night against Carlsbad.
Well, you talk about tradition, you talk about Helix, you talk about 10 champions. Now, so
as they did if you saw the video clip, everybody was like 10, 10, 10, 10.
Personally, for me, I'll just comment now because I don't really, other than joking around that I went to Helix and everything, but one of the reasons why the person that I am, and what am I? I'm just a big sports geek that watches a lot of sports 24/7, whether it be pro, high school, college, or whatever. And the reason I'm kind of like that, Adam, is because I went to Helix. And being a big, sports geek as a kid, even before you reach Helix, and you're like, wow, I get to go to Helix, and they're so great at sports. And then I go to Helix, and I immediately want to be, I'm not going to be a football player. Look at me. But you know what? I love sports, and I want to be Mr. Sportscaster or Mr. Sports Writer. So for all you guys out there that like this type of stuff, for me, that was the motivation. Going to Helix and watching great sports and a great athletic program. And that's kind of why I was always into it. It was kind of like just two paths crossing together. And that's the way I liked it. So great job, brother. Great job this season. Go Helix. We're going to follow them again. Probably do another show. We got to do another show, Adam.
We got to do another show. We're hopefully maybe we'll get Montel Allen on the next one. After so we can talk about state playoffs and stuff.
Sure. We'll make sure you get him because we want to, publicize the SDFNL All-Star game.
Yes.
Saw him put out a little bit of a feeler. I don't think they're ever going to have enough trouble getting players. It's just that I think he put out a feeler that maybe he was looking for some more players. So if any of our guys are watching, reach out to NBA Sports on Twitter. Not sure who, the criteria for it. I think seniors are invited, and then maybe they have to have some. I don't even know. But just if you feel like you've gotten slighted in the process, if you think that you have one more game in you, I think Montel, if you reach out, it might say, hey, we filled it up, whatever. But if you want one more game, you think you got a chance, and you think you need one more game to prove yourself, still to maybe even a junior college look, give Montel a buzz on DM him on Twitter, and I'm sure because I just saw that today. He said a few more spots left. I don't know if he was.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So, all right, Adam.
Hold on, before we go, I just want to say one more thing. Coach Roland Veal and also Helix fam. I just want to give a big shout out to them. They're huge supporters of you and I and what we do, and I really want to say thanks for everything that they do, watching these videos and supporting us on social media and everything and all our endeavors.
Yeah, we're gonna keep doing it too because it's fun. We like shouting out these kids. That's the best thing. The best thing for me, Adam, and the whole thing is practicing their names sometimes.
Absolutely,
right every time. So if I screw it up, just DM me or put it in the bottom of the YouTube. Put the pronunciation. That's really what I want to get right here. It's not about Adam and I. It's about saying these names over and over. I mean, that's why those other shows are great. They got all the highlights. They got all the bells and whistles. But hey, we're going to talk about every lineman. We're going to talk about the secondary, the coaches, the kids, and all that. So, all right, man, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks a lot, Adam Paul of ECPreps. Follow him on Twitter for sure at that game on Monday if you can't make it. Friday, 1 p.m. Let's put it on the screen real quick as we get out of here. Remind everyone the game at Southwestern College Friday at 1 p.m. Or follow EC_preps_SD on Twitter. I'm at Ramon Scott Poker on Twitter. And I might make it down there. Kind of want to see this one. Maybe I'll watch it on NFHS and, make a lunch or whatever. Not sure yet. Whatever the boss tells me to do for East County sports. All right. For Adam Paul, I'm Ramon Scott, and thank you for joining us.